Can everyone see my screen? Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can see. At least on my end, I can see.
Okay, cool. How do I share my... All right, yeah, so hey everyone, welcome to the Harvard Community Meeting. So the agenda for today is a little different from usual. We don't have a demo plan. We're sort of at the very end of the 2.1 release, which goes out end of this week or early next week. And so we're trying to prioritize some of the items for 2.2. So, here I have the Harbor project board. So you can take a look at some of the things we're thinking about for the 2.2, the 2.2 product suggestions. And so I thought we could just go through a couple of these real quick. Some of the ones that we've sort of landed on, and for the subsequent committee meetings, we can talk about these in greater detail and demo each of these along the way. So I have a couple that I've opened up here. So the first one is Harvard should expose metrics. So we'll most likely leverage Prometheus for this because of its popularity and sustainability. Its capabilities and the sort of support that Kubernetes has for this already. Yeah, you can tell by some of these comments, some of which can be quite forceful, that it's almost a no-brainer. But this was unfortunately never super urgent for us in the larger scheme of things, of everything else that we've delivered over the last couple of releases. But I'm glad that we're finally getting to this. So I think this would be really useful to monitor metrics on the registry actions themselves, as well as on the Kubernetes itself, the Kubernetes cluster. So you can detect abnormalities like denied login attempts. You can look at denied IPs, data transfers, and then your registry operations like stats about replication, images served, like the most pulled images, the biggest images, top repos being requested, things of that nature. So, does anyone have any questions on what this is and how to go about it? Okay, yeah, and I think the goal for us here would be for Harvard to export these metrics somewhere and then let users use their Prometheus system to scrape off whatever data they want. Or it's a pool-based system. I imagine they're useful metrics for the Kubernetes cluster itself, like things that maybe the system admin would be interested in, CPU, disk, memory. Something about your orchestration or deployment state, scheduling, API server. So I think this is a really, really important feature, and it's about time that we tackle this. All right, moving on. So the next one is the proxy cache expanded support for additional registries. And this is just alluding to the fact that in the 2.1 release, we only support Harbor acting as a proxy cache for Docker Hub and Harbor. And we want to add additional registries, additional third-party registries that Harbor can act as a pool cache for. But we sort of have to validate this on a case-by-case. But yeah. So the next one is add OIDC admin group to OIDC authentication like LDAP has. So basically in LDAP currently, you can configure a special group as your OIDC admin group. And once you've configured that group on your LDAP side, all the users as part of that group, when they flow through to the harbor side, they'll automatically be made system admins. And so we're looking for that same feature, looking for that feature parity when configuring against OIDC. So in the OIDC configuration screen, you can specify a particular name, a particular group name as your admin group. And once you configure that on the OIDC IDP side, then those users will be made system admin. Yeah, it's just something that's come up constantly. There's only one ticket here, but I've sort of closed the other tickets and pushed the other users to look to this ticket for tracking the requirement. It also comes up constantly within our customers, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Any questions or concerns? Okay, the next one is robot accounts should be shared across multiple projects. So this is a pretty common, heavily requested feature as well. So scoping robots out of projects instance and creating them at the system level. So imagine, you can specify the projects that a particular robot account has access to during creation. And you can change these permissions without having to recreate the robot like you do now, right? I think, the design for our current robot account is pretty conservative, pretty minimalistic, because we didn't know what it could be, but based on how Harbor is evolving, and it makes a lot of sense to increase its scope. Also, if you remember from the previous community meetings, we had talked about some additional improvements needed for robot accounts in order to support a specific set of commercial third-party image scanners that are leveraging robot accounts in the background to pull the images across. So this will help us achieve that. Any questions?
Hey, Alex, this is Daniel from Aqua. Just a
Hey,
question.
Daniel.
So, regarding the title of this item, so as far as I understand, because I remember we were trying to tackle this like a quick win for adding scope to the robot account. But if I remember correctly, we ended up saying that maybe we need a new entity, which is called maybe service account, or maybe it's related to this RBAC and workspaces for projects. So is this in scope of this 2.2 and this item, or still this is like a halfway step towards the eventual implementation of access permissions in Harbor?
So,
Because yeah,
yeah,
just for my understanding, because like the title is a little bit misleading. Like it sounds like we want to patch a little bit the robot account. So maybe we could clarify this as well.
there's another ticket that specifically addresses the requirements for CSP scanners. I just didn't open it up here. I didn't tag it 2.2 yet, but this is just one of the things that will help us get to that goal. But so we thought about, calling it service account versus just, beefing up the current robot account. And I think it makes more sense to enhance the current robot account as opposed to creating a new entity called service account, because it can be confusing. Robot accounts are typically used for service account type of scenarios anyway. So the work that we're doing, that we'll eventually do for workspaces, are not in scope for 2.2 because we haven't really thought clearly about what it could be. It's sort of it's a big re-implementation of the current RBAC. So I would say this is probably, I wouldn't say it's a temporary solution. We'll think about architecting in such a way that you can that it'll just work with the upcoming workspaces. But yeah, we're just thinking about this in terms of what makes sense for what kind of improvements should go into the current robot counts, and how to solve the problem with CSP scanners.
Good. All right. Yeah.
Does
Thanks
that
for
make sense?
clarifying this. Yeah.
Oh, sure, no problem. Okay, moving on. The robot account should have $sign or any special character. Should not have $sign or any special character. Yeah, so this is something that comes up constantly. It's the way we create a robot account name right now. When you create a robot account that has this appended in front of the account name, it causes a lot of problems with Bash, with people needing to escape the special character. We designed in this way because we needed a way to distinguish a real user from a robot account, and we disallowed the that character when creating username, but we can think about doing it in a better way, to be able to delineate between robot account and actual users, but not having to having to escape this character every time. So I think this comes up every week. This is just sort of the one ticket, one out of many, that I've been telling people to track, because we do plan on tackling this in 2.2. All right. Next one, robot accounts should be allowed to access the full Harbor API. I don't know about full access. I think this is when it's configured with OIDC, which is not possible right now, but we do plan on giving some access to robot accounts. Again, robot accounts are very popular. They're being utilized pretty heavily, and so there are a lot of improvements that we're going to make to robot accounts. So these are just some of the ones that I picked out.
Yeah, actually, just one doubt. So regarding access for robot accounts for full Harbor API. So as of now, with the help of robot account credentials, we can't delete an image tag or repository from CLI using Harbor APIs.
You cannot, but we can think about
Okay.
enabling deletion as an
Okay.
operation.
So, but by which release can we get? Can we expect it?
So everything I'm talking about right now is going to be in the 2.2. There's a specific 2.2
Okay.
product
Yeah, and one
suggestions in
more
my.
doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we had in our setup Harbor 2.2.1 0.1 running with high availability setup. So yeah. So with the robot account, as you told, with robot account, it's not possible to delete repository or image tag via CLI with the Harbor APIs. But with the normal user account, as we were trying, we have YDC configured with our infrastructure. So with the OIDC, we are facing some issue. So I just pasted in the chat box. So we
Okay.
were not able to. We are able to get requests, but all post and delete requests are failing. We were getting to see unauthorized error for both admin account as well as OIDC account, for the local account as well as the OIDC account. So
As for
has
OIDC,
anybody
did
come
you?
across?
Excuse me. As for the OIDC, have you opened an issue? Because if you use the ID token of that particular user, the ID token has the same permission as the user you're using.
Mm, I did not get you. Can you come again?
Yeah, I mean, as for the issue you mentioned in OIDC, have you written up an issue in the Harbor repo?
Actually, I had posted regarding this issue in the Slack channel, but I did not receive any response yet. The
Yeah,
official
yeah.
Harbor
Unfortunately, that
Slack
may
channel.
be yeah. For better tracking, it would be better if you can write up an issue. And in actual fact, you can use the ID token of that user to call Harbor's API. but the way you get
Okay,
this ID token is different, depending on what ID
ID
provider
token.
you are using.
Yeah, so you have to
Okay.
get the ID token from your OIDC provider. I think a lot of the issues in Slack and on GitHub it shows people using the whatever's being generated from Harbor. That's you have to get it from, like, if you're
Okay.
using the extra key cloak, there's a specific process to retrieve that ID token. You use that as the bearer token, right? So it's not basic
Okay.
auth. We have a guide on how to do this in the Harbor FAQ, the FAQ. I can try to find it for you. It goes over how to access
Yeah,
APIs
that
when
would be
using
great.
OIDC and using when using OIDC. But if it still doesn't work,
Okay.
I would suggest you create an issue on Harbor. It's the best way to track,
Yeah.
like Daniel said. So
Yeah.
sorry that
And
sometimes we miss messages on Slack, and it takes a while for us to get to. But
Yeah. Okay. And one more doubt, actually, it's so like suppose if I have one Redis repository, and if I push the Redis repository into the Harbor registry the first time, the tag name is also visible. But if I again push different Redis repository multiple times, suppose if I push the same Redis repository 4 to 5 times, all the previous tags won't be having any tag name. Only the one which is pushed at the latest, only that is having the tag name, and the other four previous one are not showing the tag name. This is which we are experiencing in 2.2.1. So has anybody else reported regarding this?
I don't think that's an issue. That's working by design, because those artifacts you're pushing, they use the same tag, but they have different digest. That means
Okay.
when you push the second latest or whatever tag you're using, you have to move the tag from the previous one to the new one. So the previous one doesn't have any tag. That's how things work currently.
Okay.
That makes
Okay.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But you can still view your
Thank you.
tags by clicking the artifact.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
sure, if you still have questions, please create an issue on GitHub, and we'll definitely get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, as for the robot account, the access to API, if there's any request from anyone, it's a good chance for you to add comment to the issue. So we will make decision based on your feedback regarding what permission will be exposed in the version to that group.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so this is all I have. I basically just a rundown of things we'll probably deliver in 2.2. I don't have a specific timeline in mind yet. We may try to have a tech preview ready by the US KubeCon, like we did for the EU KubeCon this time, or we might release a little bit later, depending on the payload. So if you have any things that you want to get done, or if you have any questions, or if you want to contribute in any way, please check out this 2.2 product suggestion swim link. Go through these and add your comment. So, all right, that's all I had for today's agenda. Does anyone else have anything else to share? Any questions? Your experience with Harvard, with the latest 2.0 or 2.1 or 2.0.1 or 2.0.2. The 2.1 is coming out this Friday, I believe. Hey, Daniel, are we going to release the 2.1 next Monday because of that vulnerability, or are we going to stick to this Friday?
That depends. We'll see. And yeah, I mean, when it's ready, we'll tag the release and get everything uploaded.
Okay. Yeah, I think if it's a delay by a day or two, it's worth it to just get it in.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we can give 6 minutes back to everyone. All right.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you all.